y'all. So I'm making a table, walnut table that I've been showing. Obviously been doing the series, but I'm also doing a walnut fireplace mantle to match it. It's out of the same tree, same log. So got matching wood here that's going to be in the same room or same vicinity. I'm not entirely certain, but I know it's close by. So there's a lot of different ways of doing fireplace mantles. I'm just going to show you the method that we're using and show you this mantle. This is roughly cut down. It's still in rough shape. I've got to sand, that's not coming across well from the lighting. I got to sand all this down, this end grain. I got to sand down smooth. This is 6 foot long. This here is going to be the face of it, okay? With, let me flip it over, with this here being the back. It's got the crack in the back. Well, that's a perfect spot for me to put in a groove. So the builder for the house is installing a ledger, or basically a ledger that fits, that this will fit in over the top of. And then we'll use some low profile screws underneath and on the top to attach it. So I'm going to have a 3.5 inch wide section here. It'll be centered at 3.5 inches wide, and then it'll go down 2.25 inch deep. I think I'm just going to use a circular saw and do a whole bunch of small passes, and then come back with it with a little chisel at the end of it and just kind of chisel out that groove. I think that'll work just fine. I could use the router, and maybe I end up using the router for some of it, but 2.25 inches deep, I'm not sure that I got a bit. I think I got one bit that would go down that far. But I think the circular saw in this application may be the easiest way to do it. I was going to set up a guide and just rip a whole bunch of continuous lines and then just knock them out with a hammer and chisel. The section back here that'll be mortised out will be, I think, 64 inches across. This is a 72 inch end to end, but that's just the method we're using on this. So this will have a floating look to it. It won't have any of the supports underneath holding it up. This will be floating. So I figured I'd do the mantle and the table at the same time. I'm going to be taking them up to the house at the same time. I'm basically done with the table as far as saying. I've got just a tiny bit of sanding left to do on the table back here. Remember, this is the bottom side. It doesn't look as good as the top, looks a lot better. But I've got just a little bit of sanding to do, and then I'm ready to put on oil. Using Odie's oil and their wax. But if I've got to do the mantle as well, I might as well just make a whole bunch of dust and get the mantle done. Then I can get those pieces smoothed out, sanded, and do them all at the same time. And I'll just be applying the oil to both pieces simultaneously. I do have a couple small pieces of trim I've got to do for this project. I think the trim is going around a range hood. I've not seen the place myself, but from what I'm hearing, this is going to be pretty nice. Very, very pretty from what I can tell. So table is nearly complete aside from finish. The mantle I've got to work on today. It shouldn't take me long. Shouldn't. Got to rip that up, get it where it can have that hidden beam back behind it that we screw into. So this has a floating mantle look, and then do finish on both of them. Taking a quick break here from routing out, or not, I call it routing out. It's not, I'm not using the router, but getting the back portion of this with the circular saw. I'm just making a whole bunch of small passes, then taking a wedge, kind of knocking them side to side to break them, and then pulling them out. But the problem is that my batteries keep overheating. So the batteries on the circular saw keep overheating. I've really only got 2 better batteries. My 4 amp hour batteries. One of them I just put in the refrigerator because it was too hot, trying to get it to cool down, because every time I was running it, it was doing the hot cold delay, where it was doing the yellow light over here on the right, so it wasn't actually charging. I did it earlier where I put them all in the refrigerator, cooled them down, and then I brought it down here. It worked a lot better. But I really probably only need these like two more charges, and I think I'll be able to cut through, maybe just one more good charge, cut through all of this, and then be able to get down to its final depth. Then, yes, I will have to take the chisel and clean up that facing so that it lays on the stud correctly, or on the framing correctly. But I got a nice outside line. I used the straight edge here and on this side, so my outsides are nice and straight. It's just all the middle, all the remainder I need to pull out of there. It's just taken longer than I had thought because the batteries keep overheating. This is a lot to cut through. Maybe in hindsight, maybe I should be doing smaller passes. That might be what I do here at the end, is just put the change up my settings on it, not try to make the full 2 1/4 pass at one time. That's probably my mistake. Probably go smaller passes just more frequently, but we'll see. I'm almost getting it, almost got it done here. And then I can move on to getting this thing sanded, because I hope by this evening I have this sanded in oil and this tabletop sanded in oil. Although before I hit that with the oil, I've got to get all the fine dust off there. It is really dusty down here in this basement where I'm doing that mantle right now. So I'm glad I waited to do the oil. Look at that on my hand. Look at that. It's all over me. Which is why I've been sneezing. But yeah, the dust is horrible. So, and I rigged up the circular saw to the vacuum, but it wasn't working very well. So, oh well. Wasn't working well, and I'm just waiting on batteries to charge, but in the meantime, I'm trying to dig as much of this out as I can. It's taken me a while, but I've got this project pretty much 90% done, 85% done, somewhere in there. I'm still waiting on the table legs. So the customer's sending, when I do table legs, I can either build them wooden, stock, whatever kind of frame you want, for the most part. But the last couple that I've built have been metal frame legs, steel legs. People have been ordering them off of Etsy, and then what I have them do is I just have them ship them here to the house. That way I can put them on. I can put the threaded inserts in exactly where they need to be. I can get it all rough fit, and then when I deliver the table, I dismantle it for delivery. It makes it easier to carry, makes it easier to haul, and then I reassemble it in the individual's house. That's the way I've been doing it. It works pretty well, and that's how this one is. I'm just waiting on one thing. I'm waiting on the table legs to come in, and once the table legs are in, if you watch my last video on a walnut table, I think they're using the same table legs. It has a slot in the middle of the frame that allows for a beam to go across from leg to leg, which really adds to the stability of the table. I highly recommend that style, but I don't know the exact dimensions, and even it may say like a 3x4 or 4x4. I want to make sure that's spot on before I mill out my lumber to fit that. So I'm waiting on that one piece. Everything else is milled, specced out as best as I can. It's as perfect as I can get it. I have gone through numerous amounts of sanding with it all. The tabletop behind me is silky smooth, and I've already put Odie's oil on the bottom side. I'll show you here in just a minute. I'm going to show you some of this Odie's oil. I want you to see as best as you can, because video doesn't capture it perfectly, and my lighting down here is not the greatest. But I want to show you as best as I can that dramatic difference when it goes from raw lumber to all of a sudden having a finish on it, especially with this table with the curly walnut that's in it. Let me show you how I did the mantle, because I've got this all ready to go as well. So I've got a lot of, my shoulders are going to be killing me because this Odie's oil, you wipe it in and then wipe off the excess. You let it dry, let it cure, and then you do more. I typically just do one thing of Odie's oil, and then you have an Odie's wax, which makes it stronger on top of the surface. It's a hard wax. These are the pieces of trim. I'm not installing the trim, and I just have it on a blanket. This table's got some rough spots in it, and I didn't want it to scratch or anything. So I just got it on an old blanket to help protect although the backside I'm not going to do anything with. But I'm not installing this trim, so I made it all a little bit longer than what they requested, just a few inches. That way they can miter cut it, whatever they need to do. But I am going to put finish on it, and I'm going to give them just a little bit. It doesn't take much, but just a little bit of Odie's oil and Odie's wax, where if they got to touch it up at all, because I won't be up there to do that. Let me show you how the mantle turned out. The mantle is roughly basically a 5 5/8 or 5 3/4 square. So if you imagine a 6x6 beam that you would buy at a store, that's essentially what this thing is a 6x6 beam. Now this here's the front end of it. Okay, that's the front. It's got a little bit of a sapwood on it. And then this end over here had just a little bit of bark on that, just slight bit right there. Whoop, can't see it. Right there. So I had to knock it off a little bit more. Got the ends really smooth. Man, I need better lighting down here. And what I ended up doing, let me see if I can flip it over. And this took me longer than I anticipated. This part of the project, I really thought this was going to be pretty simple. Now, I should have switched to a different saw at the very beginning. I think that would have made a difference. I was using my DeWalt. I should have switched to one of my older corded saws. I should have done that right away. I don't know why I didn't. Brain fog, I guess. It's just what happens when you're raising 5 kids. But I was able to get this groove. This groove goes down 2 1/4. This is what... there's going to be a stud, a horizontal stud that this fits into, and then on the bottom side and top side I'll just take some really small headed screws, some finished screws, and we will screw it to that studded wall. So you kind of understand how that works. This here will just be on the back. That's how you'll see it from the front. This will obviously all be hidden. It's going to have a beam that it sits on and then screwed to. I think it's going to work really well. It's going to look great, especially once you put the oil on it. But let me get to it. All this is sanded to 220. It's all been water popped once or twice. It is all, like I said, it is all silky, silky smooth. So let me get to putting on some Odie's oil on this, and let me just show you how this looks. Just using a little Odie's oil, nearly out of this. Just kind of stir it. You always want to stir it up. This stuff is like almost like a honey consistency. You buff this stuff on, and you buff it off. Gives your arms a little bit of a workout. I've also done multiple projects with just this one, what is that, like a 9-ounce jar? Something like that. This stuff, it says on here a little bit goes a long way. It really does. You can see some of the curly walnut right there. I still don't have it worked in there quite yet. So I just put on the one coat of Odie's oil. I have not buffed it off yet. Leaving the excess on for about an hour or two, and then I'll buff it off. That little bit I had in here, that very tiny amount, I did that whole tabletop. So Odie's oil is a bit expensive by the bottle. but generally you don't have to use a ton of it. Let me show you some of the figure that's popped out. All that there between those knots. Love it. And then you got, continues on down into here. It's got all this flecking. Same thing, because these are book matched, so it has the same thing on this side. Yeah, you can see it there. Kind of, my lighting's not the best, but all those little things that almost, once you put the wax on here and you buff this thing really good, it'll have almost like a holographic look to it. Same thing, this whole area. You can get out of the light there. There, all those stripes. You even got some down here on the end. A good portion of this walnut, this slab and that out one, the two that were book matched, good portion of them have got curly. I don't know what percentage, but it's pretty high. This center one does not have any curly in it, but the outside two do. You can see where the epoxy, I had to do this. This one is the, well, this is the main one that has a hole that drops through to the bottom. Like I said, this is clear epoxy, but when you put it into walnut, it has a black look to it. And these here, filled, these little cracks came out pretty cool looking. There. And there. I love that. That look to me is really pretty. It's very unique. That's part of why I like it so much. And then we had this one little spot right here. But to me, it's part of the beauty of like a custom table like this, is you're not getting, well, in most cases, most of your tabletops now are like an MDF with a veneer top, or some sort of material like that with a veneer. Most of them aren't hardwood. If you ever scratch this thing, if you ever gouge it, scratch it, it's 2 inches thick. Full 2 inches thick. It's not under at all. It's maybe a hair over 2 inches thick. You could always, you know, this should last for generations. You should be able to sand it back down, reapply more oil and more wax, and you're back to, you know, the same look. This thing will last indefinitely as long as it's kept in a nice environment. But yeah, I'm very pleased with it. The joints came out really well. I would have liked to have gotten my grain pattern combined a little bit better on this table. I had a hard time getting that perfect grain that matched. And then I ended up in an issue where I needed a wider board at that thickness, and I was running out of stock to do that with. And this was the best match I could find. Primarily because, like, this gap right here, that's a joint line. I hope it's hard to see, but like those grains kind of match each other fairly well. They match each other, although the color's different. The grains match themselves really well, but you can see a color difference. Same tree, it's just different parts of the tree. I was just hoping that it would, you know, that it would blend in a little bit more than that line. Kind of like this down here. You know, like there's your joint line right there. It's very hard to pick out at times. It also depends on how you look at the table. Like if you look at it from an angle like this, you don't notice it as much. When you look at it head on, it's a little bit easier to tell that it's actually 3 pieces glued together. I try to make mine look like, as best as I can, like it's just one giant slab that was cut. You know, my mill can't handle a log like this. Most people's mills can't handle a log that big. That's a huge log. Although I hope to one day have a mill that can handle a log that size. But I don't yet, and that's going to be years in the making. But anyway, I hope you like this. I'll show you the final product later in another video. I hope you like it.